about the beautiful city of Amsterdam. Where we left, that brown building, did you see that opposite the street? When you didn't see it, you can see it later when we come back. That's the former Heineken brewery. Heineken brewery nowadays is outside of Amsterdam since about 25 years. And this brewery they still use for excursions. So people can come here, they book an excursion, you go inside and they take you around through the former brewery, the famous Heineken brewery, and after the tour, and that's of course very important, you get 3 glasses of beer. It's included in the price of the tour. So a lot of people are booking that, they call it Heineken experience. But like I said, nowadays the brewery is outside the city of Amsterdam because this building became too small. Because Heineken is the second biggest brewery in the world at the moment. So far, alcohol. Next building that's coming on our left side, that is the Rijksmuseum. In there you find beautiful art, especially from the 17th century. And most of the paintings, it's coming up. Most of the paintings are from our, well, you could say most famous painter. That's Mr. Rembrandt. You probably know him. Not personally. That's not possibly because he died about 400 years ago. But that's the most famous, together with Van Gogh. You say Van Gogh. We call him Van Gogh. You hear that G again, you know. And Rembrandt, he lived 17th century. And he was born not in Amsterdam, but in a town called Leiden, about 50 kilometers from here. And then when he was 25 years old, he moved to Amsterdam, started to paint here and became, as you probably know, very, very famous. And one of his most famous paintings is The Night Watch. Very big picture, very big painting, and it's in this museum. And then you always get the question, what is it worth? They don't know. Nobody knows how much the Night Watch is worth because you're not be able to sell it. Yeah? It's fantastic. Billions of euros it is worth. So nobody wants to buy it, nobody is able to buy it. And it's here in the museum. Look, beautiful building. And maybe you saw the Central Railway Station in Amsterdam. I don't think so. Yeah, from the back, but not from front. It's the same art of building like this one. It's the same architect. A Dutchman called Kuipers, and he built this Rijksmuseum and the Central Railway Station in the middle of the 19th century. Talking about building, it's very hard here in Amsterdam to build houses, to build buildings. Why? Because the soil is very, very weak. So before you want to build a house, you have to drain piles into the ground. The houses are starting to lean to the left, to the right, forwards or backwards. And that means not enough piles in the ground under the house. That doesn't happen anymore nowadays, but that happened in the 17th century. And that means when we go into the canals, you will see houses leaning forward or to the left or to the right. And they will be very dangerous in the future because it's possible that they fall apart. But they control it almost every day. And before it falls apart, they take it away. And then, unfortunately, they build a modern house on that spot. It's not very nice between all those old houses, but the soil is very expensive. So you want to use the soil. You build a house on it and then you make money. Otherwise it's no use. Now you get into a square here on your right hand side, a Hard Rock Cafe. One of the squares where people are going out Friday night, Saturday night, a lot of discotheques, a lot of bars, a lot of restaurants. We have about 1,500 bars in Amsterdam. Very important for the students, but we'll come to them later. And this place, this square, the Leidse Square, is behind those buildings on your right hand side. And on your left hand side, there is a park, like Hyde Park in London, for instance, right in the middle of the city center. And this is the Vondelpark. One of the most famous poets from the past here in the Netherlands, the Vondelpark. And of course, when it is close to the city center, you find some hotels, some 4-star hotels coming up on your left side, modern ones, and ahead of us, and we'll pass it in a couple of seconds. That's the American Hotel. American Hotel, also built 19th century. They don't point out when they're going to the left, to the right. At night, they don't have any lights on because bicycles can do everything in the Netherlands. Officially not, but in Amsterdam they do it because we are a very liberal city. What you can't do all over the world, you can do in Amsterdam. You've probably heard about prostitution in Amsterdam. It's very famous all over the world. Drugs, very famous. Hard drugs, soft drugs. Everybody in the world thinks drugs are free in the Netherlands. Absolutely not true. Okay, hard drugs are absolutely not allowed. But soft drugs, you can buy. Go in there when you're over 18 years old. You're allowed to buy 5 grams for your own use. Take it home, and then also you are allowed to have at home 2 plants. And that's no problem. That's the way it happens in Amsterdam with soft drugs. Okay, we are going straight into the city of Amsterdam. Yeah, how deep is the water here? About 6 feet. Let's say that means 2 feet of mud, 2 feet of water. Then we have 2 feet left. What could that be? 2 feet of mud, 2 feet of water, or 2 feet of, I already mentioned it, bicycles. Yeah, really. I will tell you why. Because Amsterdam has 2 universities, and students, they like to study, but they also like to party, and they like to drink. And that's what I can do in Amsterdam. Very, very good. Like you said before, we have more than 1,500 bars in Amsterdam, so they can go out on Friday night and Saturday night. Every 3 minutes. Yeah. So they get into the city, they start drinking, and at 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock in the morning, then will be full of alcohol. They are drunk, and then they want to go home. But at night, 3 or 4 o'clock at night, public transportation doesn't go that frequently anymore. So it's possible that they have to wait for a bus or a streetcar for more than an hour. And you probably know that students don't have any patience. So what do? They lend themselves a bicycle. They're all over the place. Where you look, you see bicycles. They know how you unlock a bicycle, and they use one of those bicycles to go home. When they're home, they put this bicycle against a tree, they go into bed to sleep. Then, in the meantime, somebody is passing by, or 5 minutes later, or 1 day later, or 1 week later, he or she sees that bicycle, says, hey, that's a bicycle owner without lock. So I don't have to walk anymore. I can use this bicycle. And he or she is using that bicycle, puts it somewhere against a tree or something like that, and then the next one will use it, and so on. Until it breaks down or gets a flat tire, then you can't use it anymore. Like I said, 820,000 people in Amsterdam, more than 1 million bicycles, because most of the people are using the bicycle to go to their jobs. And why do they have sometimes 2 bicycles? Well, an old one that stays out on the street, they use during the week. And the new one, a better one, a more comfortable one, they use in the weekends to go out. Yeah? Leave your car here, because driving a car is very expensive in the Netherlands. Okay, in the meantime, which canal is this? Yes, the Emperor's Canal, this is. We have more than 100 kilometers, that means about 65 miles of canals in Amsterdam. And 3 of them to all these houses. You see a hook, we call it a hoist. And brought it into the house. Not only in the 17th century, they're still using them nowadays because the stairs are so steep and narrow that when you move in or move out, you cannot move your furniture over the stairs. So you use that hoisting beam from the 17th century. Modern houses in Amsterdam also have a hoisting beam. Every house that's built in Amsterdam has one, just because of the stairs too steep and too narrow. There you see all the houses are different. Those houses are, in comparing to the houses on another canal, the Gentleman's Canal, pretty narrow. And because in the past, in the 70s, Anne Frank House. The modern buildings next to the Anne Frank House, that's the entrance for the tourists. So here the modern is for the entrance and the souvenir shop, of course. And Anne Frank, they moved in here together with 2 other families in 1942, July 1942. But they were betrayed, nobody knows by whom. And they were picked up by the Nazis in September 1944. They were brought to a concentration camp, and only Father Frank, he came back. The rest died in the concentration camps. And when he came back, he found the diary of Anne Frank. And he published that diary in more than 50 countries all over the world. only one that's where people are living. And that house belongs to the city of Amsterdam. And in that house there lives the mayor of Amsterdam. His wife is a sheep. She's allowed to live there. The house only has 32 rooms, so she has room enough. And the house is coming up on your right hand side, the one with the balcony there, and where the light is burning about the front door. You see? And the family is not. That was a former house for old people. And the building is already from the 17th century. Last old people moved out a couple of years ago. And then they made an exhibition building out of it. And I have to admit, a little bit too well, because one day I set fire to this wooden bridge. I was about 9 or 10 or 11 years old, and it was a habit of those days when it was New Year's Eve. And after 2 o'clock, actually 1st of January at night, everybody threw out the Christmas tree. And we collected those Christmas trees as a boy, 4 or 5 boys, and we put them right in the middle of the bridge. And then, that was also a habit, you set fire to it. But we didn't think, oh gosh, the bridge is out of wood. So in about 10 minutes the fire brigade was here, and the police was here, and we were taken to the police office. Our parents had to pick us up the next day, and we became a punishment, of course. The punishment was, in those days, we had to come back to the police station 3 times or 4 times, I don't know. And our punishment was to walk the stairs. Upstairs, downstairs, upstairs, downstairs. That was our punishment. Nowadays, they take you to prison. But that's a period, that was our punishment. Walking up the stairs 3 days long. That means 3 afternoons long. So I know that bridge very well.
You've got strong legs too.
Yeah. Well, you want to see them?
Yeah.
It's a couple of years ago.
Here we are passing some locks. In the past, Amsterdam was in open connection to the North Sea. That means there was salty water here. That means also there was high tide and low tide here in Amsterdam. So that's why they needed those locks around the city center, right? 8 locks.